I'm Mekopin and you are watching Rappler. I'm at the Batasang Pambansa in Quezon City because today the Department of Budget and Management turned over to the House of Representatives the proposed budget for 2023 or the National Expenditure Program, yung tawag sa proposal ng administration for the coming fiscal year. So kanina nag-start yung araw with ceremonial turnover. Literally inabot ni Budget Secretary Amina Pangandaman yung NEP, yung National Expenditure Program. Isang thick na libro siya literally. Kasama na din doon yung budget message of the President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. To House Speaker Martin Romualdez. As you know, he is the cousin of the incumbent president. So just a quick, after that naman, nagkaroon ng press briefing with DBM officials and House officials. So just to rattle off who were part of the briefing, of course, Secretary Pangandaman and Speaker Romualdez led the panel that spoke to media earlier, but we also had the officials from the Appropriations Committee led by Ako Bicol Representative Elizalde Co. Of course, we also had Marikina Representative Stella Kimbo. She's a vice chairperson of the Appropriations Committee. That's the committee that primarily handles the proposed budget in their deliberations here in Congress. Tapos kasama din kanina, of course, si Majority Leader Manix Dalipe, Minority Leader Marcelino Libanan. We also had more senior officials, including Senior Deputy Majority Leader Sandro Marcos, the son of the President. Also, there was PBA Representative Mix Nograles. So may mga House officials also there during the panel and as well as DBM officials. So towards the end of this live, which will be rather long kasi medyo madugo pag-usapan ang proposed budget, we will be talking about kung paano ipapasa yung budget dito sa 19th Congress, not just dito sa Batasang Pambansa, but also in the Senate, kasi we have two chambers of Congress in the Philippine legislature. So let us start with a summary of what happened, or at least a summary of the 2023 National Expenditure Program. So kung makita nyo, may props ako dito. Ito yung hinand out sa media kanina. Ito rin yung turn over actually kay Speaker Romualdez. It's called the President's Budget Message. It's actually available online already kasi as of this live, hindi pa ata available yung mismong breakdown ng National Expenditure Program. So if you can access this, I think through the DBM's website, you'll see yung breakdown na rin at yung priority na projects at priority projects and infrastructure programs ng Marcos administration. And this is also a summary which we will be walking you through this morning. So, the Marcos administration is asking for 5.268 trillion pesos in 2023. They're calling this budget, yung tagline nila ay Agenda for Prosperity, Economic Transformation Towards Inclusivity and Sustainability. Representative Stella Kimbo, again the Vice Chairperson of the Appropriations Committee, has said that the budget will be economic recovery budget, of course referring to the need for the Philippine economy to recover after almost 3 years, over 2 years of a lockdown because of COVID-19. So this is 4.9% higher than the previous budget that was requested or proposed by the previous administration. As we all know, yung budget ngayon that the new Marcos administration is working with was proposed under the Duterte administration. Hindi kayo familiar sa budget cycle. The budget is proposed around this time, July, August, the year prior the fiscal year. Tapos we expect the budget to be passed by December of this year. So yung budget ng 2023 papasa bilang batas, bilang GAA by December 2022, or at least that's the target of the administration and the legislature as well. So we'll talk about yung target dates ng House of Representatives in a little bit. So if you're talking about the priority sectors, top of course is education with over 852.8 billion pesos. That's up from last year's budget of 788.5 billion. Infrastructure through the DPWH, 718.4 billion. Then you have health. This also includes on-program funds. Approximately, although hindi accurate or hindi exact yung sinabi ng DBM kanina, approximately 20 billion should we need to purchase more vaccines or purchase vaccines na updated in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. It also includes, the budget will also prioritize social protection via the DSWD, but the budget is down, but the proposed budget for 2023 is down just by a little bit, 197 billion compared to 205 billion the year prior. This will also include over 115.6 billion, up 7.3% for the 4Ps. This is despite the DSWD's announcement na they are reviewing yung listahan ng 4Ps to check kung sino ba yung karapat-dapat or sino ba yung dapat tanggalin na sa listahan na yun. The DBM did say na despite this check or this audit, hindi nila ibababa or they won't lower the allocation for the 4Ps program. Wala rin dito sa DSWD na budget yung dagdag na pension funds for senior citizens because the law, the proposal, the bill passed into law, natapos na po yung pag-prepare ng budget. But the DBM did say they will indicate kung magkano kailangan ng program na ito, kung sakali. Of course, agriculture is another top priority, 184.1 billion. That's up from 132.2 billion from the year prior. Yung priority nito is food security programs, including programs that will improve agriculture productivity, so irrigation and things like that. So just to recap, may tinatawag yung Marcos administration, 8-point economic agenda. And the idea is for the proposed budget to align and coincide with this agenda. So the agenda includes, again, food security. Of course, President Marcos himself heads the Agriculture Department, but that's another topic altogether. If you are a news fiend, like many of us are, yung ongoing issue ngayon sa Agriculture Department is, of course, the quote-unquote illegal resolution to import more sugar. That's actually being tackled also in the House of Representatives right now. Though hindi pa siya probe, hearing lang, briefing pa lang from agriculture officials. So another point in the economic agenda is improved transportation. Another is clean energy that's also affordable for the average Filipino, social services, health, the return to face-to-face classes, bureaucratic efficiency, and sound fiscal management. Nag-coincide din ngayon na yung opening ng classes ulit, di ba, sa Philippines, face-to-face classes. So the Education Department is getting the biggest allocation, again, with over, let me check my notes, 852.8 billion in the 2023 proposed budget. So, yung bagong buzz phrase siguro ngayon under the Marcos administration will be build better more. Again, build better more. In effect, it is the continuation of the Build Back Better program under the Duterte administration. Then this was a campaign promise of both now President Marcos and now Vice President Sara Duterte to continue the Build Back Better program of the Duterte administration. As you recall, the two run as de facto continuity and administration candidates in the 2022 elections. So over 1.2 trillion is allocated for quote-unquote shovel-ready programs under the Build Better More program. Pero yung programs na to, saklaw niya from across different departments. So kasama dito yung programs, projects ng DOTR, kasama din daw dito, projects ng DepEd, kasama din dito actually even DOH proposed projects. So under the DOTR has a huge increase, 120.4% yung increase ng budget nila this year. Yung mga priority projects include North-South Commuter Railway, Metro Manila Subway, LRT Extension, PNR South, Long Haul, EDSA Greenway, Cebu BRT, is also a priority or was named as priority sector under the 2023 budget. 196.1 billion is allocated to the DOH. Of these, 23 billion is allocated for health facilities development. 1.4 billion will be allocated to 12 DOH regional hospitals. As you recall, during the State of the Nation address of President Marcos just a month ago, he did spell out na isa sa mga priorities niya or isa sa ipupush niya yung development ng specialized hospitals across the region. So we're talking about hospitals like the health center, kidney center, lung center. Gusto niya na beyond Metro Manila, magkaroon ng mga, kumbaga, equivalents of these hospitals in the different regions, different provinces. We discussed this during our live, actually, after the SONA, that this is a very it's a populist policy in a way because again, it caters to a very real need na beyond Metro Manila, the need for services to be available without having to travel all the way to the Metro just to get these basic services. And it's also a good thing for legislators because it caters to their constituents outside of the Metro. The Marcos administration is also earmarking 718 million for health surveillance, again connected to the COVID-19 pandemic. A quick note for the LGU support fund naman, 28.9 billion yung allocated dito. And for NTF-LCAC, bumaba yung allocation for the 2023 budget to 10 billion. If I recall, in 2022, or yung pumasa in 2021 for 2022 was close to 17 billion pesos. Okay, so how will the House pass the budget? If you're not familiar, so ito, turnover ng DBM to the House, it's the 21st today. No, 22nd today. It's the 22nd today. Sa 26 or sa Friday, so kanina ceremonias lang yun, ceremonias muna yun. Sa 26, magkakaroon ng formal briefing ng budget officials and other economic team members or officials sa House, members of the House. But ahead of that, sabi ni Representative Stella Kimbo, nag-informal briefings yung members of the House through the Appropriations Committee. Para yung idea is for House members to be appraised, to ask their questions possibly ahead of formal deliberations. But then on the 26th, after the formal deliberations, tuloy-tuloy na yan, in the coming days and weeks, you will expect to see the subcommittees of the Appropriations Committee tackle the different departments ng kanya-kanya. Minsan sabay-sabay na yan. So, and this process happens parallel, may parallel process din sa Senate para mabilisan na rin. The subcommittees, finance naman doon yung mag-handle. We'll discuss the different budgets of the different departments. So you'll see the administration, officials from the executive coming to the House to defend their budget, to answer questions from legislators. So sabi ni Representative Kimbo, who is again Vice Chairperson of the Appropriations Committee, the idea is sana sa through informal talks or sa briefings sa committee and subcommittee level pa lang, ay malinawan na yung mga members ng House sa mga questions about the budget. Yung iba doon minsan, mga quote-unquote parochial concerns, so like specific projects of their localities or their constituencies. Masagot na yon bago dumating sa plenary, which is where the House gathers at large, yung buong House na lahat ng 311 members will gather to tackle the proposed budget. The target is by September 30 or less than 30 working days between the between August 26 when the formal briefing happens and the passing. So they want the proposed budget to pass in the House under 30 working days. No, this has happened before. This is not extraordinary actually. Yung last year din naman bago mag-filing of candidacies, ipasa na ng House yung budget under the last budget of the Duterte administration. So after it passes the House and the Senate, that's when representatives from both chambers meet in a bicameral conference committee, through a bicameral conference committee. And that's when they, that's when they deliberate and settle and bargain on any possible differences between the Senate version and the House version of the proposed budget or the GAA as approved by each chamber. Tas once ma-approve yan, babalik yan sa respective chambers. So babalik sa House, babalik sa Senate for approval. And if that all goes according to plan, it's then submitted to Malacanang for signing into law. The goal of the administration is for it to be signed into law before Christmas. So by December 2022. Sabi ng House, what they did is they increased the number of chairpersons of the Appropriations Committee. That means more people can tackle the budget simultaneously. Yung question dito, kasi parang supposed to be, aside from approving the budget, the legislators are supposed to scrutinize the budget, not just the proposed budget, but also scrutinize how it was used in previous years, how it will be used in coming years. So part yun dapat ng fiscalizing duty ng House of Representatives. We have a very small minority in the 19th Congress of the House of Representatives currently. Yung last count pala, dati kasi yung estimate natin, 20 to 30 members yung minority. Now we have around 22 or 23 members of the minority. The minority leader has promised that they would be a constructive minority, hinting at they won't really stop the passage of the proposed budget. But we'll see how independent blocks, any possible independent blocks in the House will try to scrutinize the budget. But again, this House, the House of Representatives under the 19th Congress, is dominated by a supermajority of close to 300, because we have 311 members of the House with just over 20 minority members, so close to 300 pa rin yung members ng majority, again led by Speaker Romualdez. Now, this report I'm giving you right now is a really, really quick summary of the budget. Again, we have yet to actually read yung National Expenditure Program and parse out yung mga ibang detalye, although some media organizations, including the Philippine Collegian, has started to parse out specific parts of the budget, including yung budget allocation for the University of the Philippines na system. So we will be reporting more on the budget, proposed budget in the coming days. So tune in to Rappler.com kasi again, ito summary pa lang ito. Kumbaga, we're only scratching the surface of the budget. We expect more points of concerns perhaps to be raised in the coming days and weeks, not just by the opposition, not just by the minority, but also by civic society. So we will be watching out for that. Again, this has been Bea Cupin discussing the turnover of the National Expenditure Program for 2023 here at the House of Representatives. Keep it on Rappler and we'll give you updates on the proposed budget. Bye.